So this is my residential controller algo. The first sequence is start column, and to do that we have to set the floor, column, and elevator. The next one is to start elevator, and for that we need to set the elevator status, door, sensors, floor list, and current floor. The next sequence is to open the door. So if the door sensor is true and the maximum weight is greater than 4,000 pounds, then the door is going to be open with 7 seconds. Then it's going to call close door. And closed door is exactly the same, opposite. The next thing is floor display, which is using the elevator floor as well as elevator direction, and that will display the floor number and the direction. Next thing is the call button light. If the call button is pressed, then the light is on, otherwise it's not. Next thing is the call button direction, and that's using the elevator direction. So when the call button is pressed, that's going to set the floor number with the direction to move up or down. And if the call button direction is moved up, then the elevator direction is going to be the same thing. And next it calls call elevator. And the call elevator sequence is using elevator direction in the floor list, and it's going to repeat until the array is empty. So it's going to get the elevator from the floor list, and if the elevator direction is moved up and next greater index number in the floor list is greater than the current floor, it's going to delete that current floor and add the next index in the floor list of the elevator to the current floor, and it's going to call open door. Otherwise it's going to move up. Otherwise, if the floor list is greater than the current floor, it's going to change direction and move down, and it's the same thing, vice versa. Next thing is floor list, and what the floor list does is going to take the requested floor, and if that floor is not on the floor list, it's going to be added to the floor list of the elevator, and that list is going to be sorted, and then it's going to call elevator, which is right up there. And next is going to be find elevator, which is using the call button direction as well as the elevator direction. And for each elevator in the column, if the elevator direction is moved up and the floor list is greater than the current floor, it's going to call floor list. Otherwise, it's going to call open door. The next thing is request floor. So that goes with the enter button. If the enter button is pressed, then the floor is requested, otherwise it's not. The last sequence is the anti-elevator light. For the commercial, I'm using class and objects, which is different from the first one, but the sequences are mostly the same. So for the elevator class, we have an ID, request button, request floor, and all of these things. And sequence open door, close door are the same. Move elevator is pretty much how the elevator moves up and down, and that is exactly the same as before. And of course I have to call it inside of the definition. The next class is call button. The next class is the call column, and that is using the amount of elevators, the direction, minimum floor, maximum floor, and the amount of floors. Floor display is exactly the same. Find elevator is exactly the same. The floor list is the same. The new thing here is to create elevator, which is using the amount of elevator per column. And the way that's done is that it sets iterator to the minimum floor, and for the amount of elevator per column, the new elevator is going to instantiate with the iterator, and it's going to add to the elevator list, and it's going to increment by 1. Also new is a create call button list, which is going to do exactly the same thing with the iterator. And we're also calling the floor list as well as a create elevator list. Now in the battery class, we have a column list, a floor list, and a status. The sequence create column is new, and using the minimum floor, maximum floor, elevator per column, and amount of floor. So the only thing, it's also going to use an iterator. The only thing that is different in this sequence as opposed to the other one is that is iterating letters as opposed to numbers. And we're also using modulo For this, we're setting a list of floor groups, and we're using modulo 20 and the iterator to create that list so that the elevators have letters and numbers as IDs. The next sequence is the best column, which is using the floor list and the column list, and it's going to repeat until the column list is empty. So if the floor selected is less than 1, it's going to return column list 1, item 1 in the array, of course. Otherwise, if it's greater than the minimum floor and less than the maximum floor, it's going to return an object in that column. And that's going to call find elevator. The last sequence is request elevator, which is going to call best column, which is going to return column. If we also going to call find elevator, which is going to return an elevator, and move elevator, which is going to move the elevator. And if we set a battery, let's say battery 1, to instantiate a new battery, so we are using the parameters we have. It's 4 columns, minimum floor is -6, maximum floor is 60. We have 3 elevators per column and 60 floor. And so if we call the requested elevator on battery 1 with floor, direction, and columns, it's going to call the best column, it's going to find the elevator, and then it's going to make the elevator move.